Hello, my name's Colt McDowell. A lot of y'all know me. I grew up in this area and I've been here pretty much my whole life.
Hi, my name is Karen Mercer.
Hi, I'm Michael Broyles, and this is my wife Becky. We've been married for about 11 years, and God's really put it on our heart to share our story.
Back about 15 years ago, I was married. Had been married for about 10 or 12 years, and pretty much was a stay-at-home mom and did all the soccer mom stuff and the volunteering at school and had a couple of part-time jobs here and there, but definitely was primarily a stay-at-home mom. And then during my last year of marriage to Kurt, which is my kid's dad, there were a lot of challenges, a lot of heartbreaks, lots of things went on that almost broke our marriage up, and through lots of counseling and lots of tears and just, efforts by both of us that were just unbelievable. We were able to work through it and decided that, the kids had to be our main focus, and we had to get past the selfishness in our hearts and do what was right by them.
Years back, we went through a really bad financial time. This financial struggle really took a toll on our marriage. We were lacking in intimacy, closeness. Our spiritual lives just seemed dead. I thought I could replace, I think, what was lacking in our marriage maybe, and went outside of our marriage. I broke down and confessed to him, what I had done. And that year was really, really hard, probably the hardest year of both of our lives.
When I was living here as a child and in high school, I always believed in God, but I didn't always live for God. Went to college for 4 years, played college basketball, came back, taught and coached at Leesburg High School. When I first got back from college, I gave my life over to God and tried to live to please God for 4 years. And everything in my life went according to plan. I progressed, got better as a coach, got better as a teacher, and continued to be where I wanted to be. In 2006, I got the opportunity to become the head coach at Leesburg High School and took what I thought was my dream job, and it was my dream job. But with that, put a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on myself that was probably undue. Being that I grew up there, played there, wanted to be the best that we could there, and put everything on my shoulders, and started to make some decisions that weren't the best for me or for anybody involved for that matter. Instead of turning to God, sometimes I'd turn to alcohol as an outlet. And in doing so, was able to manage things for a while, but it was coming to a screeching halt.
Kind of how he responded to me was, you need to pay for what you've done. But it was really hard on us both. I felt like I always had to jump through impossible hoops to just keep peace. And nothing I did helped, though. There were times where I knew I would never take my life, but I begged God just to take me, because I couldn't go on living the way we were living.
And then on a horrible night on December 2nd of 1996, a policeman knocked at my door and had told me that Kurt had been in a car wreck and he had died. And it was just like the life had been sucked out of my body. I just started screaming. I was in total disbelief. At that point, I just was numb. I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel like I could go on without him there, especially after everything that we had worked through. And I was just so angry. I was like, God, why did you put us through all this for a year, or 6 months to a year, only to just rip it all away from us?
Things were good for a while, and I thought I had control of everything in my life. I could easily fit in at church the way I wanted to. I could, basically do the things that I thought and I expected, you know, someone at my age, and really what I expected from my wife, you know, to bring to our marriage. And that's where a lot of the problems began. And when those expectations weren't being fulfilled, I went outside of our marriage and continued to do so for a long time.
Taught and coached for 4 years as the head coach, and went through cycles of trusting God and seeking God, and then cycles of turning to alcohol and things that weren't godly and weren't good avenues. In my last year of coaching at Leesburg, I lost my brother, who was 39, to a heart attack, and didn't really understand why or how that happened, and that led me into more destructive patterns. And over the last year and a half, 2 years, went all the way down into some pretty dark places. You don't realize how dark it is until you step back and look back.
You know, I was convinced that the only answer to the solution, the only answer to our marriage and the problems that we were having was divorce. And one night, Becky and I was determined to work out the details. You know, that's the way my mind worked. It was not if it's going to happen, it's how it's going to happen. And I thought we needed to start making a plan for divorce, for the children, where we would live, how we would handle finances. And we fought, and she didn't want to have anything to do with it. And I praise God, I'm so thankful that she resisted time and time again when I insisted on it. And things started surfacing that night, things that were very difficult to hear, and that I didn't think I could handle. So when my wife left the room, I locked the door behind her and got my .45. I was determined to end it there, and I couldn't do it. I came so close, and to this day I can't tell you what kept me from doing it, other than knowing that God loved me, and there had to be a different way, it had to be a better way.
I didn't feel single. I didn't feel like I was married. I was just anxious all the time, you know, not sure, am I doing the right thing, not doing the right thing. And then worst off, you know, I tried to make up for the loss of their dad with my kids by just tearing down all the boundaries. And after a year of doing that, realized that I had 2 kids that were going to become monsters if I didn't put those boundaries back up. Tried to make up for it with, you know, taking vacations and giving them toys and everything like that. They were only 7 and 10 at the time, so it was very difficult on them. Also during that time, I went through a point with myself where I became very selfish, and instead of always putting them first, I was looking out for me, and I wanted to go out and I wanted to find happiness again, and started looking in wrong places.
And I knew something had to happen. I could go to church and I could sing and I could be involved, but I would never really experience God's presence with my heart being that hard.
The turning point for me was my wife and daughter. My wife had just had enough of me doing things I shouldn't be doing, and I was at risk of losing both my wife and daughter because I let alcohol take control of my life. I wasn't going to allow that to happen, and that was kind of the turning point. I cried out to God again, and I've been battling and struggling with the temptations of alcohol and all the other temptations that come along with it for the last year and a half, 2 years. But it's constant. It's not something that just goes away. It's not something that just is fixed or healed immediately. It's a daily battle. The temptations are always there to turn to that bottle, and I have to fight it literally on a day-to-day basis in the world that I live in.
Hanging out with people that I should have been a witness to, rather than being like them and becoming sinful in nature and what they were doing. Had turned to the wrong people for comfort, dated a lot of people, like I said, ran around with the wrong people, and finally just came to realize that this isn't me. It was only by the grace of God, I think, though, that I came to that realization. I was like, okay, there's no place to go but up now, and reconfirmed my commitment to the Lord.
At that point in time, I realized, and God showed me, and more importantly, God gave me the strength. I prayed, and I did something that I really thought, and I swore to myself, under no circumstances would I, in this case, not just open a closet full of secrets, but open the cellar to my life and all the darkness that was there. And it was at that point when I allowed that darkness to be revealed, that God's light and God's presence took over.
Trying to say no to temptation and yes to God. And that's how I've been trying to maintain and manage my life and turn my life back over to Christ. The good thing is that He loves us and continues to love us, and won't forsake us. And I've clung to that and held on to that time and time again.
After dating several people that I wouldn't have dated before, I had one or two significant relationships, but just found that I put boundaries up because I was scared to death. I could not imagine ever having to go through that again, where you love someone so deeply and then you lose them. About 5 years ago, Larry and I met, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. He is kind of my soulmate. He just taught me that, there can be love after the death of a love that I didn't realize I could have.
To be able to recognize where we were and to change it, and to make that choice that, no, we want to live a life in Christ, free from these bondages that we had been living in for so long, and experience His power and Him in us to its fullest.
But every day is a battle to not pick up that bottle. Every day is a battle to not give in to temptation. And I mean, I don't want to seem like I've got it all together, but I'm definitely making strides in the right direction. And it's only through the power of Christ, and it's only through His forgiveness, and it's the only reason my family's still together. And I try to remember that in those times.
I feel like now I have a new life, and God's breathed new life into our marriage, and it's not our story, it's God's story, and we want to make sure God gets the glory. And it's because of His love for us, His commitment to us, His sacrifice for us, that we're able to show each other even a fraction of that love and that commitment. And that's really what has held us together, is the love that we realize from Christ.